G'day everybody! My name is Bruce Simpson and today you're going to learn something. Yeah, anyway, into the review. Look what I got here. Look what arrived today. Now this looks familiar, doesn't it? Looks like a brand name radio. I mean, it even has a similar kind of a name, T8SG. You could be forgiven for thinking this was a brand name radio, but it's actually not. It's Jumper, digital proportional. Now, I've reviewed a lot of radios on this channel, but I'm actually kind of excited about this one. Why? Because, well, I've got a lot of radios. Look at all the radios that I have. Now, I'm sure most people don't have this many radios, but because I review a lot of gear, I end up with a lot of stuff. But a lot of people will have several different types of models that they want to fly at one time. Not simultaneously, but on the one, they've got a bunch of models sitting there in the hobby room, and they use different systems. I mean, you've got a lot of Fly Sky stuff. Most people use Free Sky or Spectrum, or there's a raft, there's Walkera, there's all these different types of radios, and they're all incompatible, which is a real pain. Not like the old long wire days when you could take just about any long wire transmitter and use it with any long wire receiver. The only difference being, in some cases, positive or negative shift, which I'm not going to go into because it doesn't matter anymore. But suffice to say, here we got a radio that will work with a whole bunch of different protocols. How clever is that? Now, I haven't even opened the box yet, so I'm going to open the box because we'll look at it technically, we'll do a teardown, and we'll just see if it's worth the money that they're charging for it. Well, so far, I like it. It comes in, it's got its own little case. Now, this is pretty cool having a case because I, at the moment, throw my Taranis in my backpack to do my miniquad flying, and to be honest, every time I take it out, all the switches get flicked and the sticks get bent. It's actually not a very good setup. I was thinking of buying a transmitter case. Hey, this thing comes with its own case. Point in favour of it. That's a pro for me. And here it is out of the box. Wow, it's tiny. I didn't realise how small this would be. I mean, it looks much bigger on the internet, but here's my hand. Look, look how small this radio is. And I like that. I like small transmitters. I'm not a fan of big, heavy, bulky transmitters, especially if I'm going to be using them for stuff like miniquads or anything I want to cart around. Small transmitters are far more convenient. The form factor, I like it. Haven't even picked it up yet though. Let's see how it feels in the hand. That's where the experience starts to go a little haywire. Listen to this. You can hear the springs in the stick units. Hang on a minute, I'll just go to manual focus on my camera here. Everything's done. Here we go, focus auto. The sticks feel kind of cheap. Kind of cheap. Well, it isn't an Ooh, the throttle feels nice though. That's kind of got a bit of damping on it. It feels really nice, but I'm afraid that feels kind of cheap and nasty, but it is a low-cost radio. Let's face it, this is not an expensive radio, so we're going to review it as what it is, relatively low-cost radio. And of course, it could replace many, many transmitters, if you're like me, and have a whole box full of them. So in that regard, yeah, I don't know. The small size, well, yeah, it does mean that your hands can easily go from extent to extent. There's not a big reach, even for my little girly-sized hands. I'm not a piano player, but that feels okay. Now we've got some switches. What do we got? 3 position, 3 position, 3 position, 3. So we've got 4 3-position switches. That's kind of good. No sliders, of course. I mean, we're talking budget. There's no sliders on this thing. So, but you've got some twiddly-twirly knobs up here, and there are no detents on those knobs, unfortunately. Maybe there's maybe it'll beep when it gets to the midpoint. It's got a little LCD display. Look at that. And I mean little. It's kind of really tiny. Power switch. Yeah, this all feels like it's made to a price, but as I said, it is made to a price. We've got enter. These buttons here also a little bit how you going. Got a 4-way thing there. There's no button in the middle, but that is what it is. And so far, I'm not totally against it. Let's take the back off and see what's inside, shall we? But before I do that, look, there's a little cover on the bottom here. And there's a little sort of, probably can't see it because the lighting's not very good. There's a little plastic thing inside here you can slide a lipo into, and the balance port plugs into here. So unlike those other transmitters that use crappy AA battery holders, this will take a lipo. Well, probably an LIFE, I don't know yet. Speaking of which, before I go any further, it comes with a manual, a printed manual. Oops, I'll pull out of it so you can see this because it's important. Look, a printed manual. Fantastic. You don't get many of those for the pound these days. And it is relatively thick. And look, I'm impressed that they've put a printed manual. Most people just use a PDF, go to the website, download it. This is kind of handy because when you're out in the field and you haven't got any data left on your phone, this can be kind of handy to have. So, okay, let's rip the back off it, see what's inside. And I should also add, it comes with a neck strap. If you're the kind of weak-kneed person that doesn't work out enough and you need to have a strap to hold your transmitter up, it's got a thing on the front for putting the neck strap on. If you're a neck strap person, you get one. It's lovely orange. Lovely orange. It's beautiful, that is. And here's what we get for our money inside. There's not a lot to see because these days you don't need to see a lot. There's not really much that you need to put inside a transmitter. This has an ARM processor. It's only an F1, which is like the baby ARM. It's not a super powerful processor, but it's big enough. It's got enough number crunching and enough processing power to do what we need to do. Remember, the original Turnigy 9X only had a little 8-bit Atmel processor. This is a 32-bit processor, so plenty of grunt in there. The stick units look, yeah, they look cheap, but it is cheap. What else have we got in here? Now, the soldering, some of it's a bit how you going. This is most of the guts. This is the RF module here. This does all the hard RF-y stuff. I'm running a cable out there. It does have an RPSMA connector up here, so you can change it for a different antenna if you want to. If you want to put a 5 decibel antenna on there, because we don't know how much power. Though this should be a full power transmitter. I don't think there's any reason why this would be any lower than the, was it 100 effective radiated power of 100 milliwatts. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm not that impressed with. One of them is this USB connector here mounted at right angles on the board. I mean, you know, it's a right angle connector, but that's just asking for a bit of argy-bargy knock over and so forth. But it does get protected by the hole on the back of the radio, so that's probably not going to be too much of an issue. What have we got? A flex cable here goes off to the LCD. There's your balance lead. And all these wires here, they've been cable tied. That's okay, that's fairly good. There is no heat shrink or anything. Let's get a closer look at these things here. Now, here's some stuff I'm not that fussed on. There's no support for these wires. They just solder straight onto the board there. That means that in theory, with vibration or even temperature changes, these wires could, because is that a stiff? That's, yeah, that's not a silicon cable, so the plastic tends to concentrate all the stress right at the end here. So these could break off if this was transported in a heavy vibration environment. There's no heat shrink or glue support on these wires either, so you know, even on a cheap radio, I'd like to see them do something like that. It doesn't take much, just a bit of hot snot, or you know, heat shrink's a bit more time consuming, but a bit of hot snot over there. In fact, if you buy one of these, I'd recommend that you whip the back off and you hot snot these and also these other wires that I just pointed out, because you're going to save yourself acres of heartbreak if something happens and those wires snap off. I mean, look, they've done it on the sticks. If we move over to the sticks here, look, they've put hot snot on the sticks, because when you move the stick units, of course, those wires are subject to flex. And actually, it's interesting how that wire rubs over the top of the other one. So, yeah, yeah, it's okay for a cheap radio. This is not what you might have thought it was when you first saw it. It's not an expensive brand name radio. And so, you know, you get what you pay for. Get what you pay for. Yeah, what else can I say? There's not a lot else to say looking at the inside of it. It's pretty much what I expected to see. As I say, ARM processor, that looks like, I haven't actually looked, but it's probably a bit of extra memory perhaps, because this has got a 255 model memory or something or other, which is an awful lot. And it is programmable. We'll take a quick look at some of the menus in a moment. But overall, I'd have to say, yeah, it's acceptable. It is an acceptable level of build for the price you're paying and the performance that you should be getting out of this thing. As I say, though, hot snot. In fact, I will hot snot this one before I do too much more with it. And yeah, the only other thing is there is a little, looks like a simulator connector or a buddy box connector on the back there. And again, these wires, are they actually... No, they just soldered on the back of that board by the look of it down there. So they'll, you know, if I did that for about a minute, they'd break off. Not really very good. So hot snot, please. The screws that hold this thing together are really short, actually. See some of the screws there. Ooh, and they just go into these plastic posts there, so they will strip out pretty quickly. You don't want to take the back off and on this thing any more than you have to. But you shouldn't have to once you've fixed up those wires. Okay, I had to really hunt high and far for a 2-cell battery that would fit. A 1000 milliamp LIFE won't fit, which is a shame. 1100 LIFE won't fit, which is a shame, because these would be just the perfect bee's knees. And all my other stuff's 3-cell, so I managed to find a tiny little 2-cell, and we've got it plugged in. Let's see what happens if I turn it on. Woo, beep, beep. There you go. We've got a red light, and a green light, so I don't know what that means. Anyway, that screen, although it's very small, is quite legible. It's actually, it doesn't look too, if I can get the glare of the lights off, it doesn't look too bad at all. It's backlit. Yeah, it's all set up for a helicopter, I suppose. But I haven't read the manual. Oh, look, pressing that, model menu. Yeah, it looks okay, model menu, model setup. It's fairly intuitive, isn't it? Down, yes, look at that. So, yep, that's pretty good. I'm not going to go through all the menu options at this stage, because obviously that could take a whole video on its own. And the manual is available online. You can download it. So if you're interested, go and have a look at the manual. What I'm going to do now, this is just a sort of an intro to this thing. The weather is absolutely totally crap, so I'm going to leave the flight testing obviously for another day. Also, this is mode 2 and I fly mode 1, so I may have to dick around with the sticks. We'll give it to someone else to fly. But we'll do some range comparisons between this and the genuine transmitter of the appropriate type, because as I say, we'll do multi-protocol. So it'll do, you know, just about everything really, except perhaps JR, DMSX, no, what is it? DMSS or something, I forget. But anyway, JR's got its own special protocol, and there doesn't seem to be one of those in here. So yeah, this is probably all I can show you on this video. Just wanted to show you again how small it is compared to my hands. If I can make these sticks feel a bit better by dicking around with them, I might start using this as my miniquad, my backpacking miniquad radio, because just simply of the size and the fact that we get this lovely, you know, case to go with it. So stay tuned. This was really an intro to the thing. We've had a look inside, we've had a look at what it looks like, and it seems to work. So stay tuned. I will be doing some flight tests with some of the aircraft I've already set up for other radios. Okay, here we go. I have set up the transmitter to work with the MXP200, the XHover craft. I like this little one, especially good on 3 cells for proximity. You know, it's really quite light. Now, so I've set this up. I thought initially this was really easy to use, and the basic steps for setting up the transmitter are pretty straightforward. But when you get into stuff like setting sub-trims and expos and that, it gets a little bit more complicated. And if you're used to OpenTX, well, heck, it's not going to help you much. But the printed manual is okay, although it tells you certain things that don't seem to quite tally with the software. But that's always a risk when you're running software that is sort of being constantly updated. There's always a risk that the printed documentation will be a bit out of phase. But suffice to say, I spent an hour or so, and now I know how to use it. And it's set up here. Now, one thing that I'm not that impressed with is these sticks. Now you can see I converted this one to mode 1 because that's the way I fly, but I'm going to show you something here which is a little worrying. Now this is the transmitter monitor. Most transmitters have this function, so when you move the stick, the little bar moves, and you can see, if I move this, you'll see that this one up in the top right here, what do they call it, channel 2 is moving, and it has the numbers and the position. So we can see that come on, you can still see it without the light on. You can see it's set to 0, which is great, and if I move it either way, it goes to minus 100, plus 100, and back to 0. That's fine. But if we look at the aileron one, which is the channel 1, not quite so good. You can see here, and I can't actually see because I can't see in the LCD, but it says 0 at the moment. If I move it to the left, it goes to minus 97. If I go back, it's gone back to 1. If I go to the right and back, it's gone back to 1, but if I just give it a bit of a flick like that, actually I must say it's actually better than it was before. Oh, it's actually not too bad. Is that, sorry, I'm banging the camera here. Is that a 7 or a 1? I'll move the stick up a bit and see what happens, because that might make a difference. You can see it's not going back to 0 every time, and that's a worry, because it means that the model isn't going to fly that well with the stick center out. And so I've had to sort of put some deadband in the flight controller, and I actually added some expo to the sticks just to try and make sure. Now, which one is this? This is that one. See, the other sticks are okay. It's just that aileron stick, just that roll stick is a bit dodgy around center. So I'll fly with it anyway. A shame it isn't really nice and crisp. I may look at it, see if I can actually fix it up. I got rid of the spring noise. That wasn't too hard to do. Just reseated the springs on the sticks while I was changing modes. But yeah, there you go. I mean, the whole thing, it's amazing how much they fit into this little screen, because it's a really small screen, but it's legible and it's pretty easy to follow. And once you work out how the programmer was thinking, then it's not too hard to work your way around. And yeah, but I had a couple of false starts for me because I was looking at how to set up sub trims and things. And there's 2 versions of the model menu, which I'll just go into now so you can see what we're looking at here. It's actually, where are we? Here's the model menu. This isn't supposed to be a tutorial, but we've got set up timers. You can see here, mixer, timers, telemetry config, and the telemetry works. Yes, I'm using an X4R receiver in this quad, and the voltage and the RSSI work on here. There's no voice, of course. There is a voice option, but it's not implemented. But it gives you a buzz and the transmitter shakes. So here we are, trims, data log, main page configuration, voice config. As I say, if you go into voice config, it just says not available. Maybe sometime in the future. But yeah, there's no, where's endpoints? Where's Expo? Where is subtrim? Well, it's actually in the mixer menu. So even if you're not using a mix, you still go in there to change those things. And I found it really hard to assign switches to channels too, because just moving a switch would cause the stick to move ever so slightly, and that would cause it to register the stick as the input, not the switch. And there was a few issues. But anyway, suffice to say that it is working pretty damn well now. I'm going to take it for a fly and see whether that sloppiness, that lack of centering in the roll stick really causes a problem. But the sun's out. Oh my God, it's spring, the sun's out. I'm going to whip down to the park with my XHover 200 and this little transmitter. And I mean, look, actually the quad is bigger than the transmitter. Fantastic. Let's see how this goes. Also, I've set the power to 150 milliwatts, which is more than the Taranis. So, well, that has this little dinky little antenna, which should be pretty omni. I'm hoping I'll get more range. And yes, the fail-safe's all set up. Everything's set up, ready to go. So, yeah, I'm chuffed to bits. Oops, put the throttle down. Let's go and see how it flies. Here we go. This is the transmitter we'll be testing today, and super small rattles a bit because I've only got a 300 milliampere hour battery in there. But let's fire it up and see how it goes. Right. Switches are up, it's down, here we go. We're all good to go on the transmitter front. Air mode. That was interesting, wasn't it? This is a very floaty quad. A very floaty quad, which made that an interesting sort of a encounter with the tree there. And I do have my... Now this is giving me some beeps. I don't know whether it's RSSI or battery warning, because obviously, yeah. I'll just go over here, just go into angle mode. I'll just make sure my antenna's up. You gave me a bit of a beep then. Ooh, let's go back out of angle mode. This is horrible. Ooh, angle mode is awful. It's been so long since I've flown angle mode. It's much better. Yeah, now we got some control. Trouble is, this quad is so light, makes it rather hard to. I'm getting a lot of beeps out of the thing. I don't know if I've set my battery voltage for 4 cells. I may have done so, but suffice to say, I'm getting plenty of control, and the control is actually nicer than I expected it would be with these stick units. But need to turn the contrast up on my camera a bit actually. The goggles are set for my other run cam. But let's go out a bit far over here and see if we get any. No, we're still getting good strong signal. I'm not that far away, probably 100 meters or so. I don't know, this probably isn't the right video channel, it's a bit hazy. So I'm thinking maybe it's not the right channel, but I don't know. I don't know why the beeping's going on. Anyway, I just set arbitrary levels on my RSSI and my battery, so it may not even be correct. It may not even be correct. Yeah, this is too floaty, this thing. It's too light. It doesn't sink down when I want to lose a bit of altitude very easily. But it's still pretty quick. It's a quick little quad, the MXP200. Just that, whoa, inability to lose height. I love it. See the body language, see me leaning in the turns? It really does help, I tell you. But yeah, well, this transmitter's doing the biz. I've got to say, it is really doing the biz. I'm quite surprised. I think I must have something wrong with the telemetry, because it shouldn't be beeping all the time like that. And there's been no loss of control. It's solid signal all the way here, but I'm not going far. This is brill. This is going to stay in my backpack, this thing. I am now very impressed with this transmitter, having used it. And as you know, I'm a Team Nana. Probably the Chad Nowicks and that of the world would not be so impressed, but they have higher standards than me. So yeah, I like it, and I like this little quad too. I do like this little quad. Anyway, I better land and find out what all this beeping is about. I've no idea what that is. So let's see if we can bring it in without breaking something. But man, it's just so floaty. So floaty. Where am I? I can't even see where I am. Here we go. That's near enough to down. There you go. Yes, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I didn't expect this. Why is it beeping? Let's go to the telemetry and see what it says here. I didn't expect this little thing to work as well as it does. What am I? Telemetry monitor. What's it saying? 1.87. As I say, the manual. Actually, it's not quite so good, eh? That should be right. I've got 49 for RSSI, I think it is. Or a battery or something. I have no idea. No, it's still beeping. What the hell's going on here? I've no idea. No idea. I'll have to sort it. Anyway, suffice to say, full control. It felt nice. These sticks, even though they're cheap, you saw me fly. I'm a Team Nano and I was doing all right. Remembering that this is just the first time I've had this transmitter in my hands, and I've just, be quiet. Because of the battery voltage on the transmitter, no? Anyway, it's the first time I have flown it, and I felt quite comfortable with it. I like it. It's good. And the fact that you could use this one transmitter for all your little toys and your fixed wing and all your other aircraft, I've got to say, yeah, this is gonna get worn out in my backpack. This is gonna get, all the edges are gonna get polished and the silver will get scuffed. But so far, there's a few limitations, but really like it. So look in the description of this video, you'll see some pros and cons. I try to do that. Also a link to the product. This was supplied for review purposes. I always make very clear, I don't make any money out of it by saying it's good, but I do like it. And yeah, by all means visit the product link so the manufacturer can, or the seller can see that the review's doing some work for them. And now I'm going to have some more flying because I'm having a good time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.